All right, so this update on the wine. Um, I've strained and filtered and bottled. It's been 13 days, I think, of fermentation. Let's just see a little of the color there. I've been doing some research to try and find out um, what the variety of grape is. I've done a little bit of learning here. It's very fascinating. Um, so these vines that I've harvested from are 7 or 8 years old, wild vines, volunteers, that is. Now, there was an attempt at a winery or a vineyard up the road from me that didn't last more than one season. I'm not really exactly sure why it didn't last or what the deal was. Excuse me, I've been trying to identify these types of grapes, and one of the kind of blatant obvious ones is Pinot Noir. Those are supposedly very fickle and hard to raise and hard to get started. And if I've got wild Pinot just throwing batch after batch of grapes at me, that doesn't really make sense. So I don't think it's Pinot Noir. Um, Based on the type of wine that it makes, I was looking at some type of French variety, maybe Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon type dark grapes. There was one that was called Petit Verdot that really looks a lot by the leaf like this one, but the temperate zone and the harvest time completely different. What I was able to find is that of types that are known to grow well in Iowa, that Iowa winemakers can look up for good wines to grow in Iowa, which I'm sure the people down the road did. Um, what I came to was this is most likely some type of a wild hybrid, maybe with other types. Your basic grape. There could be other varieties that somebody has a vineyard, a bird eats a grape with the seed, plants a vine out in the woods, whatever, and they prosper. But as far as I can tell, this appears to be Maréchal Foch grapes. Um, this batch here has the what they call late harvest uh, fungus in it. Well, it's not in it at this point, but the grapes definitely had the noble rot going on in a few places, and I didn't include like the hard ones because they were just gravelly. Um, but there is definitely a natural fermentation was going on in these grapes as well. So, um, it is an extremely full bodied. The tannins just come to the bottom. It is very dark. This wine has had all of the grape material filtered, strained out of it. It's been filtered into the bottles through a fine coffee strainer. There was a lot of grit that came out with that. So what we have then here, like I said, is this nice. My first thought was maybe this is some kind of Burgundy, but that's more of a region thing than a type. But definitely is a Bordeaux type wine. Um, Very, very full bodied wine. It's not like the most distinct flavor profile. This batch was some great value bread making yeast. It was just basic yeast. It's not necessarily champagne yeast or wine yeast or whatever. I let this glass sit for a while. I poured out the bottom part. I basically I dipped into the bucket and filtered some and tasted it, and then I went about straining and then everything went into a slightly smaller container once I was able to strain everything out, and then I was able to strain it back in to the big bucket, and then from there start ladling out until I could lower it into a smaller bucket for ease of movement, filtering with a funnel and a coffee filter into individual bottles. And it's not a paper filter, it's a plastic screen filter. So I did this while this glass of wine sat. So a lot of the alcohol is out of it. The tannins are definitely still in it, though. But from what I had earlier, definitely got a nice little, just really light alcohol buzz going. And it's not that this stuff isn't strong, and it's bottled with loose tops. It's going to still eventually. I do not want this to be a sparkling wine. As of right now, just of the second batch that I've just finished here, this very wine right here, I have got something like 7 to 8 liters of wine bottled up, and then I've got the grape wine vinegar going as well, and I'll actually pause this and come show it to you in the other room. Okay, so this is the room that's got the space heater in it, and this was closed up so that the cats wouldn't mess. And what we have here is now the 2 different batches of grapes from my attempts at making this wild grape wine. The first one's been over a month now. Extra sugar, a little bit of water, fermenting very passively. And now it's had basically triple the mass added. Dumped a bit more sugar in, just a smidge more water, stirred it up real good. And that spot in there right now is just temporary. Figure out what the best location is going to be to let it do its thing. And so I'm thinking if I let that go probably through November or so, I should have some really, really nice grape wine vinegar available after that. Be able to use that for salads or whatever. I don't really have the facility to distill it. So a non-distilled vinegar with the tannins in it, you don't really want to try and clean your glass with it. But definitely as a digestif or as a cooking or other culinary thing, definitely going to have some fun use out of that. But yeah, it's this took me maybe an hour and a half to strain, filter, and bottle all of that. It was kind of a rapid process. I wasn't super sloppy or anything, but I definitely probably lost a cup's worth of wine in splashes and spills. Yeah, so now I have a large stock of this very nice homemade grape wine, and a few people here and there are going to be getting some bottles. And I don't know, man. If you're seeing this and you're in the area where I live and you happen to know me, then let me know in a comment or something, or if you've got my phone number, get a hold of me. And I've got 8/5, 2 pints, and 2 1.5 liter bottles, all just kind of aerating right now. But anyways, yeah, if you would like a pint or a fifth of this homemade wine and you know who I am and how to get a hold of me, do so, and it'll be yours for free because I'm not charging for this time. Maybe eventually or something there might be a way to turn profit off it, but right now, why monetize a miracle?